Does starting your adult life in Pattaya, bonking hookers on easy mode, help you grow up or quietly wreck your future dating life? That's the uncomfortable tension at the heart of the debate about young men heading to Pattaya as an early fix for dating frustration. For a long time, Pattaya occupied a specific spot in a man's mental map. It wasn't the first chapter, it was the late chapter. The place you went after you'd done the rounds, after relationships, heartbreak, long dry spells, boring stretches, and years of figuring yourself out. It was something older men mentioned quietly, with a knowing grin, almost like a guilty secret. You didn't brag about it in your 20s because your 20s were supposed to be messy, loud, full of free mistakes, no fee required up front. Those years were for getting rejected and surviving it, learning how to talk to strangers, discovering what you're like when you're nervous, cocky, lonely, chasing approval, trying too hard, or not trying at all, working out where your pride ends and reality begins. Thailand used to mean something else too: hostels, backpack routes, night buses, cheap beer, beach towns, social circles that formed overnight, hookups that happened because you were young, free, and brave enough to embarrass yourself a little. That was the old story. The new story is different. A lot of young men now arrive with a very specific frame already locked in. They don't show up curious. They show up transactional, asking for prices, routes, techniques, guarantees, not because they're bad people, because the modern world trains them to think like consumers long before it teaches them to think like men. And here's the blunt argument you hear constantly: you're underestimating how brutal dating is in the West right now. These aren't total wrecks living in their mum's basement. They're fit, they earn decent money, they're not hideous, and still they're not getting what they want. Not often enough. Not with the women they actually desire. So they say it's straight. Pattaya fixes that urge. There's no poetry in it. It's pure function. It works. It's not only the sex. It's the time saved, the effort avoided, the endless messaging, tone negotiation, unspoken rules, waiting, flaking, slow bleed of energy into something that might never happen. Many put it like this: they have limited free time. They'd rather spend it on hobbies, fitness, business, life, not chasing women who treat them like an option. They hate texting. They hate apps. They hate the performance. And when you listen closely, what they're really describing is resentment mixed with exhaustion. They're not just opting out of dating. They're opting out of humiliation. The sharpest version goes further. Women agree to a date and then vanish. No consequence, no apology, no cost. Why keep investing in a system where the other side can behave badly and still be treated like a prize? The bitterness isn't hatred. It's a quiet conclusion that the game is rigged, and they'd rather pay for certainty than gamble for dignity. That's one side. Then you hear the older voice: I'm in my 40s now. Back home I meet women without issue. I don't need to be famous or a model. I just talk to people. I'm comfortable in my skin. Rejection doesn't terrify me. And he'll say the thing that makes younger men furious: this isn't society's fault. It's a skills issue, a confidence issue, a socialization issue. You grew up on screens. Oh, you didn't build the muscle of face-to-face interaction. You didn't forge charisma the old way, by failing repeatedly in public until it stops being scary. Paying for it doesn't fix you. It delays you. It gives you the outcome without the growth, the reward without the process. Get used to that, and normal life starts feeling slow, unfair, insulting. Younger men bite back. Who asked you to play village elder? Why are older men always trying to teach? Why insert yourselves into our problems like we should be grateful? And they have a point. The world that built that older man's charisma isn't the world young men live in now. The conditions changed. The playing field changed. The incentives changed. Even the meaning of dating changed. Ignore that, and you sound like you're describing a country that no longer exists. So here's a more balanced view. People in their 40s were forced to go out. It wasn't optional. No endless entertainment on demand. No infinite erotic content in your pocket. No algorithms feeding you whatever keeps you hooked. If you wanted connection, you had to move your body into the world and risk being awkward. Now, much of that has been replaced. Young men, especially, can go years without learning the basic rhythms of social life. Dopamine without conversation. Fantasy without risk. Validation without competence. When your brain is wired that way, real-life dating feels like unpaid labor. It often starts innocent: the bit of porn, some videos, dating tip clips, nightlife tours. The algorithm notices what you linger on and feeds you more extreme versions of the same promise: effortless access, endless choice, instant gratification. Then Pattaya appears, not as a travel destination, but as an answer, a solution, a cheat code. God mode in a video game where you skip the early levels, skip the grind, skip the awkward learning curve, and suddenly you're invincible. And at first, it feels incredible. Imagine being a young man who's felt ignored for years. Anxiety around women. Invisible. Replaceable. Forgettable. Then you arrive somewhere and the dynamic flips. Suddenly you feel confident. Suddenly you feel like a man. Suddenly the world makes sense. It's not hard to see why that would be attractive. It's hard to see why it wouldn't be. But the real question isn't whether it works. It's what it costs you. When you taste that kind of access too early, it can imprint. It becomes your reference point. It shapes what you think is normal. Back home, where attention is earned slowly, intimacy negotiated, women not automatically available, you don't just feel disappointed. You feel offended. You compare everything. You resent the friction, the pace, the patience required, the idea that you still need to become more attractive, confident, socially skilled, emotionally steady, just to get what you got easily somewhere else. Some men say it motivates them, gives them fuel to earn more, get fitter, build a life, a taste of what's possible that pushes them forward. Others say it ruins you. It doesn't motivate. It sedates. It hands you a false sense of power that collapses the second you're back in normal life. And instead of facing that collapse, you keep returning to where you feel like a king. There's an economic layer too. New guys arrive inexperienced, overpay out of desperation. Prices rise, sellers adapt, the ecosystem shifts. Older men who treated it as an occasional escape feel the ground move. Some resentment isn't moral, it's territorial. They're upset because their private thing got discovered, crowded, and more expensive. Young men fire back, "You're not worried about us. You just want cheaper access and fewer competitors." And honestly, that accusation isn't always wrong. But it isn't the whole truth either. Because there is genuine long-term concern when very young men skip their own development. Not out of puritanism, out of empathy. Real intimacy is messy. It demands patience, compromise, being seen at your worst, risking rejection after effort, tolerating uncertainty. If you train your desire around transactions and certainty, do you ever relearn how to handle the opposite? If you get used to being chosen because you paid, do you ever risk being chosen because you're you? Underneath it all sits a quieter question. What do we really mean when we say dating is bad? Sometimes it means apps are exhausting. Fair. Sometimes it means women have too many options. Maybe. Sometimes it means dates cost too much, expectations feel unreasonable, the cultural mood is adversarial. That's real. But often the dating is bad is code for, I don't want to feel powerless. I don't want to earn it. I don't want to risk humiliation. I want control. That's not evil. That's human. It's why men chase money, status, muscles, anything that reduces exposure. The problem is control can become addictive, especially if you find it before you find yourself. If you're in your late 40s, you've already had your illusions shattered. You know life is unfair, people disappoint, you have weaknesses. So you can hold Pattaya at arm's length, enjoy it without it defining you. But if you're 22 and haven't built that identity yet, the place can become your identity. The shortcut becomes your personality. The cheat code becomes your worldview. Pattaya used to be a mirror held up to older men. Now it's a mirror for younger men. And what we see is a generation hungry, anxious, overstimulated, tired before they've even begun. For many, the shortcut works. It gives relief, confidence, momentum, until it becomes the only place they feel alive. Then it's not travel anymore. It's dependency, not just on a place, but on a version of yourself you can only access there. So maybe the real question isn't whether young men should go. People will do what they do. The real question is what happens when your first taste of adult power comes from a loophole instead of a life. Because once you learn there's a door you can open without earning the key, it becomes very hard to go back to knocking. What do you think? Is Pattaya a smart hack or a risky detour? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you've been there, share your story. And if this hit home, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more real talk. Thanks for watching.